Good afternoon and welcome to one more webinar from Telric India. We conduct these webinars pretty much every Thursday of the month, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. India Standard Time. We moved from a different time, like we used to do it at 3 p.m. But to accommodate our friends from Singapore, Hong Kong, all these areas, so we moved it up like 12 p.m. and then hope folks from there join us too. So today we're going to be talking about NativeScript and then push notification. Just a kind of a disclaimer. I'm not going to go deep into what is NativeScript, just a brief, and then I'll try to show you a brief demo also. But if you're interested in knowing more about NativeScript, let me bring up a webinar that I had done pretty much in the month of April, or yeah, in the April 30th. We had done a getting started webinar with NativeScript, build truly native apps, Android and iOS apps from single JavaScript code base. So as you can see here, this has a slide deck which introduces you to NativeScript. This also has a video recording which will pretty much give you the getting started of NativeScript, because I'm not going to go deep into NativeScript, how does it work, how does it run, in all those things. So I'm going to just briefly introduce for the benefit of others who are joining us for the first time, then hearing about NativeScript for the first time. So I'm going to be doing just a brief one for them, but I encourage you to go to telerichelper.net and search for NativeScript. You'll find the this particular webinar video, and then you can pretty much go through them. So let's talk NativeScript today. This changes everything. So that's what we're going to be looking at. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Lohit GN. I work as a technical evangelist with Talrik in India. I'm also a Microsoft MVP. That's most valuable professional for my expertise in the area of ASP.NET. That's my official email ID, lohit.nagaraj@telric.com, and that's my Twitter handle. A couple of web links. Kashipas.com is my personal website. Telrichelper.net is a website that where myself and my colleagues in India, we keep writing about how to on Telric controls. And our global website is www.telric.com. So all the information you need to know about Telric and the products, you can go to telric.com. A simple agenda for today. It's just a 4-point agenda for today. We're going to be taking a brief look at what is NativeScript. Then we're going to understand what is push notification in mobile world. And I'll try to do a brief introduction to, again, one more component that we have on in Telerik. It's known as Telerik Backend. Basically, if you are coming from a mobility world, you might have heard of the terminology MBaaS, or Mobile Backend as a Service. So Telerik Backend is our offering on our cloud, on our mobile platform, which is a backend as a service. And finally, we're going to take a look at how you can do push notification implementation using NativeScript in the NativeScript apps. How do you handle the push notification? So that's a simple agenda. So let's take a brief look at NativeScript. The name NativeScript may be very confusing to you, but don't get confused. It's actually a fusion of two words: native as in native mobile app, script as in JavaScript. So NativeScript is a runtime, or NativeScript is a framework, or NativeScript is like a platform which allows you to use your JavaScript skills to develop a native, truly native Android, iOS, and then Windows Phone apps or Windows apps. In fact, Windows support is going to be coming up early next year. Currently, using NativeScript with only single source code base, you can create Android and iOS apps. The stack for working in NativeScript is fairly simple. You write the logic in JavaScript, you style the page in using CSS, and you create your UI using XML. And it's completely single code base, and the same code base will run on Android and will run on iOS. So that's the magic we do using the NativeScript, right? So if you are thinking like, what? Well, you're welcome. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So what exactly is NativeScript, right? So NativeScript was built from ground up. There is no DOM in NativeScript. The name NativeScript is just the name for our runtime, just the name for our development platform for developing mobile apps using JavaScript. So the moment we say JavaScript, everybody thinks like, oh, there is a DOM. No, right? When you're using Node.js is a JavaScript execution environment, and then you write JavaScript to create a web server, you write JavaScript to serve something, you write JavaScript to create a web API. Similarly, what we said was, well, why not? There are many more web developers than when compared to maybe a mobile developers. So we said, if you know JavaScript, let us help you reuse the JavaScript skills to go mobile. You may be a web developer, but you never attempted to build a mobile application because, well, if I want to develop a native mobile app for Android, I need to know Java as a language. If I want to develop a native mobile app for iOS, I need to know Objective-C or Swift. Well, I'm just a JavaScript guy. I do not have bandwidth. I do not have time to go through and then maybe learn a new thing. So what if I give you a mechanism wherein whatever you know, that is the JavaScript or CSS, use that to write an app, and then that's going to become a native mobile app. So, well, that's what exactly NativeScript is all about. There is no DOM. We do not cross compile, and no plugins required. In fact, if you're developing a hybrid mobile application, chances are that you're using PhoneGap or Cordova as we call it, and then it's basically a plugin to the native app, right? So it's a web view which is kept inside your app, and then the web view runs your HTML, and it's still HTML. So it's a hybrid. Whereas here we do not use the PhoneGap plugin, or we don't use a plugin at all to do that, because you are writing the code in JavaScript, but we convert that, or we take that JavaScript directly and run it on the device itself. So that's what we mean by no cross compilation. NativeScript is straight up JavaScript, and it runs as a native app. It is a native app, and since it's a native app, we allow you to access all the native APIs that are available on the device. Basically the platform. If it is an Android, we give you the whole Android API to you in JavaScript. If it is iOS, we give you the whole iOS APIs in the JavaScript. So as I said, NativeScript is straight up JavaScript running as native app. So what exactly is happening under the hood, right? You may be confused as to, okay, what is it talking about? It's JavaScript, but it's a native mobile app. So how is that possible? Well, under the hood, what we do is as follows. So basically, we work as an abstraction. We give you the NativeScript layer, or the development stack for you, called as NativeScript, is actually an abstraction, and it's a very smart one. So basically, what we do is we ship a virtual machine along with your app, and the JavaScript runs on the virtual machine. So on a iOS, we have JavaScript core as the virtual machine. On Android, we use Google V8. And on Win Mobile 10, or when the Windows Phone 10 or Windows Mobile 10 as it's known as is going to come out, we are still thinking what VM we should use. But this is what is happening. So there's a VM, and your code is executed by or interpreted by, because JavaScript is an interpreted language. So your code is interpreted by the VM, and we have certain C++ callbacks which do the marshalling, dispatching, and all those things. So basically, your JavaScript needs to be converted into those local calls, right? On a Android, it needs to be a Java call. So there's a JNI. Java native interface going on, and then on an iOS, my JavaScript code needs to be converted into whatever the core language is there. So we have the bridge, as we call it, sitting between the your app and the device, and then the VM will make sure that it does all these callbacks back and forth. So you write the JavaScript, NativeScript utilizes a bridge, and it has full access to native API. That's all of iOS and Android APIs. So how do we do that? So basically, we use reflection to look up native APIs. If you write a label in JavaScript, that has to be translated, or that has to be looked up as to what is it in the native world. Basically, the label in the Android is android.widget.label. The same thing is different in iOS. It's NS label. So what we do is, although it is reflection, there's already a question about performance. So the performance is just a 10% hit. It's in the nanoseconds or the milliseconds is what we take in order for the reflection. But there is a catch. We do not do the full reflection at runtime. So what we do is, the list of APIs for each platform metadata is pre-generated, and then we inject it into your app package at the build time itself. So that means at runtime, I'm not doing a pure reflection. Rather, I'm just looking through my cache to see, hey, what's the label in Android, what's the label in iOS, and then we have already kept that metadata saying like, oh, in Android it is java dot whatever com dot lang dot string, or all those things. If you have used a JavaScript string, that has to be translated to com dot lang dot string or whatever the Java world has it, right? So we pre-inject the metadata for every platform that you're asking for. So I mean, when I say every platform, it's like if you build an Android package, we keep the Android metadata. If you build an iOS package, we keep the iOS metadata. And the biggest thing for me as a developer is plug and play, right? The native script is so flexible that it can, of course, we are allowing you to reuse your skills, which is nothing but the JavaScript, the XML, the CSS, and then go mobile. Plus, how many of you know Node.js platform, right? Node.js is very popular, and NPM and Node Package Manager, bunch of libraries are available which are open source, and then you can use it. So since we are working, I mean, since our whole native script fundamentals is JavaScript, it doesn't stop you there. You can go to NPM and say like, hey, NPM, I want say so and so package, and then include the package into your particular mobile application, and then you can start using them. There are a bunch. The last time I checked, more than 100K packages are available in NPM, right? You can use native libraries for each platform. For example, maybe we at Telerik have a native control set for Android and native control set for Windows Phone, with native control set for iOS. So if you want to use those native control set, you can still use it within native script. That's flexible. You can use JavaScript libraries without the DOM dependency from NPM, and then you can share the UI styles through CSS. So as I said, we let you style your screens using CSS. If you're coming from the web world, it is very much easier for you to understand CSS. Plus, there's a full TypeScript support. TypeScript is going to be big, and you should be writing TypeScript, or you should be looking at TypeScript if you are a JavaScript guy. It's a fantastic language that Microsoft came out with. It gives you the typed JavaScript. As you know, JavaScript is untyped. It's a typeless language. But with TypeScript, it kind of tries to address that gap by giving you a typed way of writing the JavaScript. So if you're asking how do I start, which is as simple as a command line. Open a command line and then just grab the NativeScript CLI. Of course, I have abstracted out, or I have not provided the prerequisites here. If you are on Android, you need certain prerequisites. The prerequisites are you need to have a JDK installed, you need to have the Android SDK installed, you need to have the Gradle build installed, and you need to have the all these things. Make sure that your prerequisite is met. By the way, NativeScript is open source. We are not charging anything for that. So if you go to nativescript.org, so let me open that up. So if you go to www.nativescript.org, this is the site which will provide you all the documentation, how to get started, everything. So if you go to the documentation, we have the prerequisites already mentioned there. You can develop using NativeScript on a Windows OS, on a Mac OS, on a Linux OS. So we support all these things. So it's like a cross-platform development, right? You are going cross-platform, and then you be with whatever you're comfortable with. So if you take a getting started setup here, so we have this set up your system, and there is a way to set up it on Windows, on OS X, and then Linux. I'm not going to go deep into this. I'm assuming that these are the prerequisites that you will go look at it and then install it. Once you have done with the installation, it is as simple as opening up a command prompt and then saying npm install -g nativescript. So I'm saying install NativeScript on this mission globally. So I can go up to any command prompt in any directory and say TNS, or TNS is our command line for NativeScript. It stands for Telerik NativeScript, so that's TNS. How do you create a project and add platforms? Well, on a Windows machine, that is today I'm using a Windows OS. So on a Windows machine, I can build only Android. But if you were on a Mac OS, you will be able to build for iOS as well as Android. And you just have to make sure your prerequisites are all installed on your Mac, and you will be able to build for Android, build for iOS. So on a Windows machine, all I can do is TNS create my app. That will create the NativeScript app. or your native mobile app, and I just have to say TNS platform add Android, TNS platform add iOS. Now note that on a Windows machine, I will be able to do a platform add iOS on a Windows machine, but I cannot build it, right? So that's what it is. So you need to have the prerequisites. In fact, you cannot add a iOS platform on a Windows. If you have a shared code repository and then somebody opened up your project on an iOS or a Mac OS and then he has added the platform iOS, you can still open that up on a Windows machine, but you cannot build for iOS because there's no prerequisites for the iOS, right? Now, how do you run it on a device or an emulator? As simple as saying TNS run Android or TNS run Android hyphen emulator. So today what I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using my Nexus 7. I have a Nexus 7. So let me bring it up and then I'll show it to you that I do have it, that I'm not just saying anything. So I'm going to bring up my screen share. So I'm using a utility known as Visor. So this is something somebody wrote for Chrome. What this allows me to do is, so as you can see here, it says Nexus 7. So I can pretty much mirror my Nexus 7, if it is a physical device, onto my Windows machine. So I'm going to get my zoom in. So as you can see here, this is the Nexus 7 that I have, a physical machine. So I'm going to start, and it's coming up. And there we go. So what you're seeing on the screen is actually my Nexus 7. So that's my Android tablet that I have. As you can see, I just clicked on it. So I went to the home screen. I'm going to do again. Looks like there's a lag for you guys, so don't worry. But what I'm going to be doing is, instead of using an emulator, I'm going to be using this live device in order to build and then put it onto the this device. So I want to show the power of NativeScript. So now on this machine, what I've done is I've already created everything, all the prerequisites that's required. So as you can see here, I'm on a command prompt. So I was just playing around with one of the applications. So let me go back. So this is my folder where I want to create a new app. So I'm just going to say, or if you just want to see what version I am on, so I'm currently on version 1.4.2. That's the latest of Telerik NativeScript. If you just say npm update NativeScript, you will get the updated NativeScript. Or if you install NativeScript now, that is npm install -g NativeScript, you will get 1.4.2. If you just say TNS, what happens? Well, it is looking for other arguments. Since you did not provide the other arguments, it's going to say like, hey, the TNS has so many the command. So what command did you had in mind to use? So there is a, let me show you this. So TNS creates a new project for a native development with NativeScript. TNS init, TNS platform add, TNS platform list, platform remove. A bunch of commands are available. So TNS device is basically, it lists all the connected device on my laptop now. So let me go and then let me zoom out. So I'm going to do TNS device now, just to make sure that I have a device connected. Remember, I have my Nexus 7 connected to this particular machine now, my OS, right? So it says, whatever, don't worry about the device name. I don't know from where it got the device name, but it is saying, hey, I do find one device connected to your machine, right? So that's good. So we are good to go now. All I need to do is TNS create NS demo app 1. Let me make sure I don't have that way. There's an NS app 1, there is an NS app 2, NS app 55. Oh, okay, I'm gonna do NS webinar demo app. All right, it's a big one. So I'll say NS Webi app, right? So I'm gonna say TNS create NS Webi app. So now what NativeScript is doing is it's actually going and then preparing a project for me. Oh, we're already at the half-an-hour mark, so I need to kind of get going, because I need to show the cool stuff you can do with push notification. So what it is doing now is the NativeScript is going to go ahead and then scaffold me a bare bone application with a simple a button, and then if you click a button, it increments the counter and then says how many button clicks are left. So as you can see here, it says project has been created successfully. So I'm going to cd into that particular so now the first thing that I need to do is TNS platform add Android. So as I said, Telerik NativeScript supports both Android and iOS, but on a Windows machine, since you cannot have a iOS prerequisites, you cannot add a iOS as a platform on a Windows machine, but you can open up the same project on a Mac OS and then say TNS platform add iOS, and you will get the iOS bits into that. So now when I say TNS platform add Android, what it does is on this machine there's already Android SDK set up, so he knows where it is. As part of the prerequisites, you need to make sure that you have an environmental variable called Android underscore home. That is important. So now we are looking for that, and then there are a bunch of things that we need from the Android SDK, the Android manifest file, the Gradle build, everything. So we're going to bring that and then put it inside your project. Now, I was expecting somebody will actually post me a question saying like, hey, this is fine, but how do I code, or what do I use for coding, right? So remember what I said, the native script is all about JavaScript, XML, CSS, all are textual based, right? There's nothing special that you want to do. So you can use any what do you call the editor that you want to use. So you use Sublime Text or you use Visual Studio Code. In fact, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, one of my newest favorite editors that I have now. Visual Studio Code, which is free and it's cross-platform too. You can use Visual Studio Code on a Windows machine, on a Mac OS also. And whatever your favorite JS or CSS editor that you have, right? Choice of ID is up to you, because you're working with an XML, with a JavaScript and with CSS, right? So now I'm going to go to the folder where we had the so this is where it was created, NS Webby demo, so Webby app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say right click and then say, hey, open this in a Visual Studio Code, right? So now Visual Studio Code is going to be launched, and I'll show you the complete application. How is it? What are the different variants of the application? What does it contain and all those things? So let's give it a second. I think it's opened up here in my other thing. So as you can see here, so this is how a typical NativeScript application looks like. So it's all based on a convention. So at the root, we have an app folder, and then all your application related files goes inside the app folder. Then our core modules, the Telerik NativeScript core modules themselves are a npm package. So that's why you see that they are residing in a node modules package. And remember, I said platform add Android, so we have created an Android folder, and then we bring in certain stuff from the Android SDK. If there was an iOS platform added, you would have seen another folder called iOS, and then it would have all the things. And notice here that remember I talked about XML, so this is the main page, and the code behind, or the logic for the this main page is here, the .css, and then there is a CSS file which is a global CSS file for the whole of the application. So I have kept it as app.css. NativeScript is convention over configuration, meaning you don't configure stuff. If you follow certain convention, the NativeScript runtime is smart enough to understand that. So what is this convention? The app.js is the gateway to the starting of your app. So that's where you kind of do certain pre-launch activities, meaning you may want to decide which screen needs to be the first one. Meaning if the first time that the user is coming up, I mean, the user is using this application, I may want to show login screen. But if he has already logged in and then I have his token stored in the settings, I don't want to show the login screen again. I want to show the main page. So all those pre-launch activities can be done in the app.css. The app.css will have pretty much only this much. So if you see here, it says main module is main page, CSS file is app.css, application.start. That is all it is required to kickstart your app on a device, right? And then if you notice here in the main page, I have not mentioned what is the the extension of this. I just said main hyphen page. So the convention is NativeScript will look for a page with .xml, and then that's going to be the UI, and then it's going to look for .js file, and then it's going to bind these two together and saying like, hey XML, your data is going to come from this file called as main page.js. So let me show you what the main page.xml has. It's a very simple layout. As you can see, we start at page, then there's a stack layout. Stack layout stacks the contents or the children's in a horizontal manner or a vertical manner. In this case, we are stacking it horizontally. I have a label, I have a button, I have a label, and notice here we have a data binding syntax going on. So where is this data binding happening from, right? Notice we have this loaded method here, or loaded event here. So a page has a lot of lifecycle events. One of them is loaded. So where does it come from? So in the main page.js, I'm doing exports.page loaded is equal to page loaded. So now for those of you who are in JavaScript world, if you're following if you're following Node.js world, Node.js is a very popular execution environment and then development stack. So in Node.js, there's a concept of modules, and then you export the module, saying like, hey, from this particular page, this method is available for the outside world, and then you just say require and then a particular file. So in this case, what I did was I just said from this file, I'm exposing page loaded method. So that's why the XML was able to bind it. And when it calls this page loaded method, I said the binding context for this particular page is this view model. So let's take a look at the main view model. So the main view model is fairly simple. I have created a hello world model, and it has a tap action. So this is what's going to be bound to the button. And we kind of create a property called as message, and we keep changing the message whenever a tap is, the button is tapped, right? And then I am exporting again the view model. That is what's being used in the main page.js. If you see here, I have exposed it. I've created the object and then I've used that. Now, how do I run this, right? So let's go back to the command prompt and then notice that. So let me kind of stack it next to each other. So I have my visor here. So on the right hand side, what you're seeing is my Nexus. Oh, I think I pressed some app. So let me clean that. And we don't need this guy, we don't need this guy. Okay, now all I have to say is I just have to say tns run android hyphen device one. So that means I'm saying like, hey, I have a connected device, its ID is 1, which is nothing but my Nexus 7, and tns, I want you to run this application on the device. So I'm now directly putting the app onto the device. So let's give it a couple of seconds. It's gonna take like 40 seconds or so for the build to be happening. We are shifted to Gradle build, which is much faster compared to what we were using earlier. So but still, it takes like a 40 seconds or a 50 seconds, or we can say like the build takes a minute for it to complete. Once the build is done, it will automatically push the APK, or it will deploy the APK onto the device. So what you're seeing now is it's doing the compilation, and this is the Gradle build that's coming up. So Gradle is like MS build for the Microsoft world. So Gradle is what the Android world uses. So let's give it a couple of seconds. There's too many things happening on my machine. I have recording the GoToMeeting. I have this PowerPoint going on. So it's gonna be a little bit slow. In the meanwhile, let me see if there's any questions. So performance affected in case of using a VM. As I said, uh, anyway, JavaScript is an interpreted language. So of course, there's no way we can execute a JavaScript directly on a device. So we need the VM. But we have already done a couple of kind of a metrics on this. What is the performance hit or anything. So from a percentage perspective, yes, there's a 10% overhead or 10% performance hit compared to a truly native app. But that 10% may be looking like a huge number, but when it translates to the seconds, I believe it's down to a millisecond or so. That's the lag or whatever you say. I don't know if a human eye can detect a millisecond lag or a nanosecond lag. So that is what we have, because it has to do that kind of a what do you call the reflect, meaning, hey, what's a label from JavaScript? If I said label, what is the label on a Android, or what is the label on an iOS? So that is the only lookup that it has to do. As I said, it is not doing a pure reflection at runtime. We already have the metadata pre-injected into the build. Injected into your package. So it has to just pick up, or it has to go and then just look up that entry and saying like, hey, I'm running in Android. For Android, what is the equivalent of a label? Oh, it's a android.widget.label. Oh, okay. So let me go execute, do a JNI and then get back whatever it is. How is NativeScript different from other popular platforms such as Ionic? Ionic also has the same features and we can build any app using Angular. Well, Ravi, I hope you do understand that Ionic is not a native mobile app. Ionic is a hybrid mobile app. It is running inside a browser when you ultimately package it and then put it onto your machine. I'm talking about developing a native Android mobile app, but you do not need to know the native language called as Java, or you do not need to know the native language called Objective-C or a C#. All you need to know is JavaScript. And you will be happy to know that if you are an Angular fan, starting from our next release of NativeScript, you can use, or not from the next release, but rather whenever Angular 2 is ready, NativeScript already has support for Angular 2. But Angular 2 itself is alpha. It is not even ready for beta. So the moment Angular 2 becomes stable, you will be able to follow the same paradigm of Angular 2, but still develop a native Android or a native iOS app. So that is what the difference between NativeScript and Ionic. Ionic, hybrid, full stop. NativeScript is native mobile app. So now the build has been done, and it is now pushing the APK. There you go. On the right hand side, you now see the application coming up. And notice this doesn't look like an Ionic, or it doesn't look like a Kendo UI mobile. That's because we are using the native mobile thing. So what you see on here is a button. So this is a native Android button, and what you see here is a native label. So this is how the font, the whatever, the CSS, we have written it like we have given a little bit bigger font, but these are all native stuff. So if I click on tab, notice here, this is actually a JavaScript running right on the device, right? But this is native. Do you see? I'm actually running this on a device, and I don't see a lag or anything. Maybe in the GoToMeeting, you will see like there's a 1 second lag, but believe me, that is just because of the streaming. If you do whatever I just did on a physical device, you will see the difference. Okay, so now having said that, I do not have time to actually show you certain stuff, or let me do one quick thing maybe. So what I can do is I'm going to stop this, and here I'm going to say npm install movement JS. So this is a very famous JavaScript library. Did I misspell? Yeah, I think it's npm install movement. And there you go. So I have just now included something called as a movement.js JavaScript library. It's a very popular library. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a particular variable here. Maybe I will say this dot set date message or whatever, and I'm going to say var movement is equal to require. I just have to say this, if you look at the movement.js, I just have to say movement, and it will have a movement property, right? So I'm going to just come in here, sorry, in the view model, and then I will say require movement, and let me show you guys the library. Now if you're confused as to how do I use it, right? So all you need to do is go to npmjs.com. So this is the node package manager, and search for movement, right? So the moment I click on the movement package, it pretty much tells you everything what you need to do. Okay, they are not given it here. So let's go into this particular GitHub. So basically everything is an open source framework, right? So they are not given here also. Okay, this is all you need to do. So you just say require and then call this movement off, right? So I can just come in here and then say like movement, right? So this is how you use a typical libraries from. So let me run it again. So here's another thing. So if you think, oh, he's going to build everything again, no, I don't have to do everything again. I just have to say tns live sync android --device 1. So what this is doing is I'm not rebuilding the whole APK again, because otherwise it's going to take another minute or 2 minutes. So what I'm doing is I'm saying like, hey, take the changes and then apply the changes directly onto the APK that's already there, right? This is very popular in Cordova. Cordova prepare does that. You just take the hybrid, in the hybrid world, you just say Cordova prepare and then it just takes it and then puts only the changes. Similarly, we have this concept wherein you don't have to rebuild, build it once and then you can just say live sync. And now what is happening is it's preparing the or transferring the project files. You will see on the right hand side that the app will go down and then come back again, but I'm not spending that much time as an APK build. So there you go, my thing is built, but I'm not showing that output, so I did make a mistake. Can I run it from .NET VS 2012 or any other version of VS? So you're not getting the point. I mean, so the thing is, it's all command line. You use any editor to edit the files. As I said, this is completely command line thing. There is nothing Visual Studio thing here, but we do have a Visual Studio extension available called as Telerik App Builder using the Visual Studios on, but you will need to take a subscription of App Builder from us, and then the App Builder lets you do this in Visual Studio. The same thing, you can build it. If you use our App Builder, which is the licensed version of the mobile platform, you do not have to install any prerequisites at all. So this is completely an open source technology that I'm showcasing, which is a command line interface. So now what I need to do is I need to go to my XML, and notice here I have this date message, right? So I'm going to go to the XML and then I will duplicate this line and I will say, hey, I need this date message. And well, anyway, we'll keep that as is. So now I can just come in here and then again do the same stuff. I'll say live sync and then it will just check it will just take the changes and then do it. So how can we debug such issues like you've just faced now? Can we debug using Chrome Inspect tool where it detects the app opened on the device? Yes, not exactly like a Chrome I mean, not directly going to a Chrome. Rather, we have a command which is known as TNS debug, and TNS debug will actually open up a Chrome inspector, or we call it as a web inspector on the Chrome, and then you can step through all your JavaScript and then go through that. So I did not face a problem. What I was trying to showcase was if there is a npm package available in the npmjs.com, how do you use it? Typically the npm authors, the package authors, they will provide an instruction. So let me show you this. I'm going to say NativeScript here, and let me take maybe my colleague, he had done a flashlight. So this is a NativeScript flashlight. There you go. So this is what I was talking about. So usually the NPM authors, they have this documentation where they say, how do you add this? So you just say TNS plugin add NativeScript flashlight. How do you use it? Whichever file you want to use it, write this line, and then you just do this, and then you just do this. So this is what I was trying to showcase, like, if there is a library available in NPM, how do you use it? So let's see if we're good. Oh, my Nexus just went for sleep because, oh, there we go. So the movement, what it does is it is giving you the ticks in this particular thing. So I believe the movement.js has this method called dot. Okay, let me quickly take a look at it. Movement.js, because it's a very popular. I don't remember the. It has a very cool property called as dot from or something. So not format, not format. Let me go to docs. I think from now or something like that. So uh, display, yeah. So let's take a look at this, and movement dot time from now, yeah. So yeah, from now. So this is all I need to do. I just have to call from now. So what it will do is it will give me, like, seconds ago, minutes ago, or a hour ago, or yesterday, or something like that. So I just have to say movement of dot this one, right? So what I'm just showcasing you is how easy it is to use a JavaScript library within NativeScript. You just figure out a JavaScript library which does not use any DOM dependency, and then you just use it. npm install the JavaScript library, require that library, and then use a functionality from that library. Now what we should see is it should say a second ago or a couple of seconds ago or something like that, instead of this big number that you see there, 144610. That is actually the number of ticks from, I believe, 1975. That's the Unix epoch time that JavaScript uses. And now once the app comes up, we will see like it's showing a different way. A few seconds ago, right? This is very popular in terms of if I'm building a feed reader, and then in the feed reader I want to show a minute ago, 2 minutes ago, or 30 minutes ago, or yesterday, something like that. So there you go. This is what you can do with npm. Now let's switch gears because I'm already at 45-minute mark. So we looked at the demo of NativeScript. As I said, do go to tellerickhelper.net and search for NativeScript. There's already a fully getting started, a level 100 version of the webinar, so you can take a look at how do you do things with NativeScript. So quickly to summarize, why do you need a NativeScript again? Truly native UX. You can use third-party JavaScript libraries, same-day support for new platforms, XML UI declaration, biggest of all, open source, and of course it has a rich data binding. So take a look at NativeScript if you're interested. Now let me talk about push notifications, right? So this is one of the hallmark thing about any mobile application. What is a push notification? Well, it's as simple as, in a layman's term, send some data to your app from your server. So it's a convenient, battery friendly. Why do I say battery friendly? Because your app may not be running, but you just want to quickly say how many of you get notification from maybe ESPN Crick Info or whatever. So on my Windows phone, I have a ESPN Crick Info app. So every time there is a match happening, a live match happening, like India, South Africa, whatever it is, I get a notification the moment there's a wicket, the moment somebody hit a 4 or somebody hit a 6. So I get a notification. I quickly glance at that, and then okay, oh yeah, so there was a wicket which fall. That's it. I don't have to open up the application itself. So that's why it's a one of the unique features of any mobile app. If you want to keep your customers, or if your end user engaged with your app, this is one way that you do. You send notifications for maybe important features in your application or promotions in your application. So the app need not be running. That's the thing. So you typically you'll see this push notification concept used in marketing campaigns or promos or etc. Those kind of things. But what is from an architectural perspective, what exactly is happening, right? So you have an app server, so that's your application server, and then you have an Android or iOS or a Windows Phone client application, meaning that you have different devices, different OSs, and there is your app on all this OS. And now how do you communicate between your app server or your application server to those applications, the client applications, right? So you need something called as an APNS or an Apple push notification server or a GCM connection server or a Windows notification server, right? You need these guys because the push notification is not something that Telerik owns it or anybody else in the industry owns it. It's the feature of the operating system itself. It's the feature of the mobile OS platform itself. Like for example, an Android, any messaging or any push notification that you want to do, you need to go through Google Cloud Messaging Service. On iOS, if you need to push any iOS, if you want to push any message, push notification message to any of your iOS apps, you need to go through APNS. If you have a Windows Phone application and you want to send any message to your app, you need to go through WNS. Now, the complexity is 3 different platforms, 3 different services, 3 different servers, 3 different clients, right? So, but this is the architecturally, this is how you do it. You have an app server, you have the client apps, and then in between you have the connections, you have the servers, and your app server does not communicate with the client apps. That's the important thing here. It communicates only with the APNS or the GCM or the WNS servers, and it says that, hey, I want to send a notification to either everybody or to a very specific guy, or you can do segmentations. And it says that, hey, okay, I have already registered with you. So typically you need to register your app with GCM or APNS or WNS, and then you tell your credential saying like, hey, I am so and so, I am registered with your things and I want to send a notification. And then you just give the message to the servers, the GCM or APNS or WNS, and they take it over and then they send the messages. So that's how architecturally this works, right? So how do you, procedure is basically register your app with respective notification service, use an app server to communicate with the notification service, then handle push notification message on your device. So that's the three-part thing that you will need to do. I mean, it sounds easy, but yeah, I mean, you try to do it on your own, you will have problems. So registering with GCM, let's go and then kind of register ourselves with the GCM. So let me get my URL. So there is a URL called as developers.google.mobile/add. So this is where you come into Google and then say like, hey, I want to use a GCM service, and I'm registered, and that GCM service is for my application. So let me create a register myself. So it is asking me, let's set up your mobile app with some of these Google services. So I'm going to say, it's asking me pick a platform. There you go. There are a couple of things. If you want to send service to iOS through GCM, you can do it. If you want to send, typically for an Android app, you will need to have this. So I'm going to select this, and actually I've already created here called as NS push test 1, whatever it is. So the screen level instructions are fairly simple. You have to enter an app name and then an Android package name, whatever package you provide, for example, com dot whatever you typically follow in your Android. Then once you're done with it, what you need to do is there are a couple of things that you need to make a note of. So let me go to my dashboard. So I'm not going to go through, this is self-explanatory. Provide an app name, provide a package name, and in the next one, basically it will ask you what do you need. You have to select GCM, global Google Cloud Messaging Service, and that's it. You're done with it. Your registration is done. Now I already done the registration for one of my app, or I just created a dummy app and then I gave the name or whatever it is. It is known as NS push test 1, some lousy name. So here it is. So this is known as NS push test 1. So let me click on it. I'm going to get to the overview of the project. So there are a couple of things that you need to know here. One is, if you see here, it says project number. So make a note of this project number. So you need to know this particular project number. And then, sorry, I think it's credentials. Yeah, and you need to know your server key, or this is known as the server API key or server key. So if you go to the APIs and credential, you will get the API key. Make a note of this, and then if you go to the home, it will be having a project number. So you need to have this project number. So store it. So I already kept these two things handy. Once you are done with it, the next thing will be to use an app server. So now here is where the interesting thing is. If you what are the things that this particular app server needs to do is, when your app runs, meaning you have an Android app or an iOS app or a Windows Phone app, and you want to send notification to these apps or these platforms, right? So when your app runs on this OS, you need to make sure you register this device with yourself. Like, you need to know how many devices are connected to you. So that will call for something known as, you need to know its tokens, blah blah blah. There's a plenty of thing that you would have to do otherwise. Manually, if you want to handle it, you will have to do a lot of manual process in order to make sure you can send notifications. Well, I'm going to introduce you to one mobile service, a platform service that we have. We have Telerik Mobile Platform. That's our cloud platform that we have for mobility. And as part of Telerik Mobile Platform, we have a service called as Telerik Backend. And the backend is nothing but mobile backend as a service, or as a MBAS or BAS as we call it. It has one of the features called push notification. So we will become like a server for you. All you need to do is tell me your API server key, and then I will make sure that I'll do push according to whatever GCM requires. I'll do the push to your iOS platform. I'll do the push to your Windows platform. we will take care of all the heavy lifting. We will take care of all the differences that you otherwise had to take care, right? All you need to do is just set it up and provide me the message that you want to push, and then I will do it, right? So let's go and then take a look at that. If you log into platform.telerik.com, this is the Telerik mobile platform. Of course, it's a paid one, but we do have a 30 days free trial. But I'm going to showcase it to you how easy it is to create a push notification. So I have created a workspace called as Native Workspace, and then I have already created a project called as Telerik Backend project. I mean, it's a type is Telerik Backend. So if you click on this create project, notice here it has backend services project, manage a backend for app, data and file storage, user management, cloud code, email, and push notification. Let's assume you just want to use a push notification. Yeah, you can directly come in here, create a new project. Then what I've done is inside the project, I've enabled the push notification. Let me show you how you do that. So if you click on services here, these are the services that our backend provides you on the platform. You can store, access, manage the data for your app in the cloud. So that's known as a cloud data. Then I have already added push notification, send push notification to iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and Windows devices, responsive images, cloud files, user management, data connectors, business logic, email notification. These are the what do you call the the features of the Telerik backend services. Today I'm just using push notification. I already added that. Notice here there's a segment called as push notification, right? Now here's the settings part. All I have said is I can go and then create check all these other checkboxes, but today I just have an Android device and then I'm on a Windows phone, Windows OS, so I can just showcase Android. So what I have done is I have said um, to this particular push notification setting that, hey, I want to use only Android for now. You have to provide a Google API key for your server application. So what I have done was I registered my application and I have made a note of the API key. So I have provided that API key. That is all I have to do, right? Now, what's the second thing that you need to do? Okay, let me show you. So this is basically what is a push in Telerik backend, effortless integration with iOS, Windows Phone, Android. Isolates the platform differences. As I said, different notification servers, different devices, different OS versions. So we take care of all those things. Now whatever we just saw was just registering, enabling the push notification from the backend perspective, right? Now, so that is what we did. So Telerik backend push settings, we have just set it up. That is all we have done. So next we will see how to do a push notification with NativeScript. So what is it required? First, you need to create a NativeScript app. That is what we have done already. Then we need to include a push plugin that we have already written it for you. So you just have to say npm tns plugin NativeScript push plugin. That's it. And then you will get the support of handling push messages within your application. Again, it's a single source code base. You do not have to worry about iOS or Android app because you're writing the code once and it just generates two different you just generate different packages. And our push plugin is a cross-platform plugin, meaning it knows how to handle things in iOS, it knows how to handle things in Android. Then you need to, so when the application starts, you need to register the device with your app server. And in our case, the app server is actually our this one, Telerik backend, right? And then in the app itself, you need to listen for push notification callback. The moment there is a push notification sent out, it's going to come to the device, and then the device is going to look for who's going to handle this particular message. And we have to tell the the what do you call the OS that, hey, I'm going to handle that message, and then you do whatever you want. Typically people will show a toast message, people will show a dialog box or whatever it is, and then that's what I said, handle the push notification. So now in the interest of the time, we're already at 1 hour mark. So what I'm going to do is let me bring up, so here is the plugin that I was talking about. If you go to npm JS, if you go to npm JS and then search for NativeScript push notifications, so you will find this, and then we already have all the information that is required for you to execute. So this is all I have done. TNS plugin add NativeScript push notification. I have done it so far. TNS platform add Android, and on an Android application, you need to add something called as Google Play services. So that typically the Google Play services are available at your Android SDK folder. If you see here, Android SDK, extras, Google Play services, lib project, and then Google Play services libs. So we know, I mean, you just tell us where is this particular folder, and then we will pick it up from there, right? Usage is very simple. I'm going to show you now a different application that I already built, and in the interest of the time I already pre-built it because I knew I'm going to run out of time. So what I've done is, this is a simple application. If you see here, you see the XML. I have a label which is a header text, and then I have a button which is basically asking me to register, and then here is where I'm going to show the push message, or I'm going to show a dialog also. So what am I doing, right? So if you look at my node modules, I've already included the NativeScript push notification. Remember the documentation where it said you need to do this? I've already done that. And I've also added the Google Play services, as a requirement. So where does everything start? Everything starts here. There's a button. So let me run this first, and so that you can actually take a look at it. Let me bring up the visor, and I'm going to go to my command line, and I'm going to go back, sample push plugin, and then I'm going to say tns run, or we already have it. I already run it, so I will say tns live sync android hyphen device 1. So I mean, before I came to the webinar, I was prepping, so I already have this particular application installed on my Nexus 7. So it went again for sleep. So let me bring it up. And I'm gonna just close this guy so that we know. So it's transferring the project files. Most probably I had already registered my Nexus 7. So it's gonna say like, it's already registered. So let me unregister and then come back again. So it's just taking the any changes are there or whatever, and then he's pushing it onto the Nexus 7 now. If you have any questions in the meanwhile, so just push it in the Q&A panel. So I'll try to take a look at it by the time it just gets built and then pushed. And we should see this any moment now. Okay, in the meanwhile, let me show you some of the things. So let me go back to my, okay, it's come up. So there you go. So this is a simple application. All we are doing is, as you can see here, welcome to Telerik Backend Services push notification NativeScript sample app. Tap the button to enable push notification on this device. If you see here, there's enable notifications, right? So here is the code which handles the notification. So before you start with anything with Telerik Backend, you need to include what we call as the Telerik Backend SDK. It's codenamed as Everlive. So basically, Everlive is a code name for Telerik Backend, and then we still love it, and then we still kept the same name. So Everlive.js is the JavaScript SDK which handles pretty much registering a device, unregistering a device, and then handling the, and then that is all you need. You just need to register the device to the Telerik backend server. That's it. And then if you want to unregister, for example, if the user may come in and say, hey, I don't want to get any more notifications from your app. Yeah, you need to make sure you unregister the device from the Telerik backend server. Otherwise, next time, whenever you push a notification, the user will get it, although he said no, right? So you need to unregister it. So if you see the register device here, there's a function here known as register device. Let me show you that. Notice here what we are doing. We are just calling one line of code. everlive.push.register. What should I register? Basically, these are the certain settings that you need to register. So what you need to do is, every Everlive project will have an API key. So you need to instantiate the Everlive object with the API key. Once you have done that, let me show you the settings for push notification. So here is, Okay, I cannot show everything in one go, I believe. So yeah, so I hope this is visible for you. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating a object called as push settings, and then this is the iOS setting, right? This is the notification callback for iOS. And notice what I'm doing. I'm just doing in dialogues.alert. Notice that this is a JavaScript function, but when it actually runs on iOS, you will actually see the iOS native dialog called alert, right? Similarly, on the Android, all I need is remember the project number that I said. So we just need to know the project, provide the project number, and then whenever there is a notification, so this is the callback for the notification. Whenever a message comes, what should I do? And we are again doing a dialogues.alert. That's all we are doing. Register, unregister, wait for the push notification to come. So now what let me show you this. Let me go back to my platform. Where was the platform? Yeah, it's here. So let me show you this devices. As of now, there's already one device, right? So let me delete that. I don't want it because this is the before I came into the webinar, I was just prepping around. So now it says enable notification. That means I need to go register myself with Telerik backend. So let me do that. So I'm going to just do this way, and I'm going to say enable. Notice that what is happening. It is saying registered device, and there we go. It said successful registration for push notification. This device has been initialized for push notification and is now registered in Telerik backend services. Well, if you think I'm bluffing, let's go and refresh here. And notice what happened here. I see a device here, and it says the device ID is so and so, created at October 29, 2015, 1:06 p.m. That's what the time I have on my watch, right? So this is when I created it. Platform type is Android. I'm running 5.1.1. The hardware model is Nexus 7. This is the time zone. The time zone is Asia, Kolkata. That's correct. And notice here, this is the important part, the push token. Every device will give you a push token. So you need to handle that. This whole concept of a server registering a device, understanding the push token, and then pushing, that you will have to do it. If you do not use static backend server, you will have to manually do all this stuff. And typically there are other options also available in the market, but I'm just showcasing how easy it is. Now let's go and then send a notification, right? So I'm going to go and then go to push browser, and I'm going to say send push notification. And what is it doing? Okay, on the right hand side, if you see here, I have my form, and then it's saying platform specific. So from our Telerik backend, we provide you like, hey, if you want to send a specific message to a specific platform, meaning all Android users only should get a push notification. Yes, you can do it with very easily with ours. As you can see here, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, Windows, I can target them. In this case, I know I have only one device. I'm going to broadcast this. I'm going to say hello world from push notification, and I'm going to say send everyone now. So keep a note on the right hand side, that is in my Nexus 7, right? The moment I say send now, we will see a dialog come. There we go. We got the push notification right on our NativeScript app. Yeah, I'm still sharing my screen. I think you guys are a little bit lagging behind, but you can see on the right hand side in the visor, I'm able to see the push notification dialog that's coming. I did say hello world from push notification, and I got the notification in the app. So whatever app you're seeing there is actually a NativeScript app. All I had to do was register the device and just wait for the push notification to come in. So let me go through the code once again, right? So all I did was, when the page loaded, in fact, in your in a real world application, you will not have a button which says register for push notification. You will ask the user, hey, are you okay to receive a push notification? There will be a slider, or there will be a switch button, yes, no. If he says yes, you will register the device with your app server. In this case, we are using Everlive. All I had to do was use the Everlive SDK, instantiate the Everlive. So here is where I've instantiated the Everlive or the Telerik backend, and then I need to create a push setting. And in this case, for Android, all I had to do was Android project number, and then what is the callback for the message when the message comes on the mobile application. What is the callback? In this callback, all I'm doing is I'm showing an alert, right? And then I had to call the register device. The register device is very simple. I can just pretty much go in this line, do this one liner which says register everlive.push.register, and then that's it, right? So let me send one more maybe push notification. I will go back to my this one. I will say broadcast, or let me do platform specific. I'll say Android and send title. Let's say Android special. Let's say it like that. You have one iPhone, whatever 6s or whatever it is, right? Then I'll just say send now. So what I'm saying doing now is I've selected a very specific platform called as Android, and I've said like you have won an iPhone 6s or whatever it is, and then I'll just do send everyone now or never, expire never. So I've done that. There we go. You said you have one iPhone 6s, right? On the right hand side you should see the push notification that's coming in. This is as easy as it can get with a native mobile application, with a push notification, with a JavaScript, right? That is the whole fundamental thing about NativeScript. You being a web developer, you knowing a JavaScript, XML and CSS, you can go native now. And not only that, with the addition of Telerik backend or the Telerik mobile platform, you can do a lot many things. Today we just showcased push notification, and that's pretty much what I had in mind for today's webinar. We are 10 minutes overboard. I hope you guys are okay with that. So that's what I did. I showcased you demo NativeScript plus push notification, and now go build your dream app. We are pretty much excited to know what you will be doing. Native cross-platform mobile with JavaScript. You can pretty much follow the NativeScript on nativescript.org. That's the website, or we are available on Twitter. You can tweet at the rate NativeScript, and I'm also available on Twitter. If you want to kind of ping me, you can do that. So thank you very much for attending the webinar. Let me stop the recording, and we hope to see you in our future webinars too.